We have all come across this kind of person. We have all been in this scenario. If you haven't, then lucky you. But I'm pretty sure we all have. I remember in the past, I came across many people that would try to test my boundaries and try to push me beyond my regular state. So they would basically try to turn me into someone I'm not. They did this by trying to test me, to make me so angry that I would just explode. Regardless of how much self-control I had, they would try to get me out of character, and they would try to use it against me afterwards. And I've dealt with so many people trying to test my boundaries. But then I noticed something. The reason that these people were testing my boundaries and I felt like I had to constantly fight myself to maintain these boundaries is because I wasn't actually maintaining and standing on my own boundaries. Sometimes you have to be harsh. Sometimes you have to be a little ruthless. And people may see you as selfish, and you just have to be okay with that. You're going to get used to it, okay? Because having true boundaries is seen as selfish, is seen as mean. And in the past, I wanted to take a step forward in my journey of self-improvement, self-development. So I started developing boundaries and placing boundaries on all my relationships, my friendships, my family, everything. And I noticed that I had to fight to keep these boundaries in place and to fight myself from these people were trying to cross me and to test me and to push past my boundaries. But the thing I noticed and the thing I learned, hold on, let me get some air. The thing I learned from that point in my life is that I didn't actually have boundaries. I pretended to have boundaries. I wanted to have boundaries, but I wasn't in that level of true self-respect and self-love to actually have boundaries. Because in order to have boundaries, and I actually wrote about this in my Substack, I think like a short paragraph, I wrote about how if you speaking on your boundaries and telling someone else is externalizing your boundary and placing the responsibility of holding that boundary on the other person partially. To have true boundaries, you're holding that energy of the boundary, not just speaking on it. It's not just words. You actually holding the energy, and the boundary speaks for itself, because when someone crosses you, you're done with them. That's it. Obviously, for family, it can be a bit messy, but when you're taking that first step of placing boundaries, notice where you are just using words to place boundaries on people rather than energy, because boundaries are an energy that you have to hold and maintain. And in order to have boundaries, you have to have a certain level of self-respect and self-love too, because in order to respect yourself, you obviously love yourself. You love yourself enough to give yourself respect, because you respect yourself so much, and it's interconnected. So I did not have that self-love. I did not have that. Obviously, I think personally for me, I have a baseline level of self-respect, but I didn't have enough self-respect to actually have true energetic boundaries. And so what I did in order to fill the gap between trying to have these boundaries, but it just being verbal, and having these true energetic boundaries that nobody can cross, is I had to build up my self-love. And in order to do that, I had to release all these wounds that I had connected to my past, all this pain and trauma and limiting beliefs that made me feel like I wasn't worthy, that made me feel like I wasn't lovable, that made me feel like I wasn't capable of certain things. And that this societal conditioning that made me think that my body here was ugly, to make me think that all the features that I had weren't beautiful. And so you have to unlearn this conditioning from your childhood. You have to release the trauma, heal from the trauma, unlearn the limiting beliefs, rewire your mind. And naturally, as you do that, you will gain more and more self-love, because if you're not seeing from the eyes of this societal conditioning, and you're not seeing from the eyes of trauma and limiting beliefs and pain, you're seeing things for how they truly are. You're seeing things for what they are rather than what you think they are based on your conditioning. And so over time, I started seeing myself as who I truly am. Like, wow, I look good. Look at my hair. I literally look like a lion. Like, my eyebrows are pretty. Like, I don't even need to talk about all my features, but I love all my features. And I used to be so insecure of my feet growing up. Basically, majority of my life, up until a few years ago, when I had healed, I had done enough healing and unlearning this conditioning that I just started seeing my feet for what they truly are. And I started being more grateful. That's the thing, is when you are grateful, you naturally love yourself. You naturally learn to love yourself as you're releasing these unhealed trauma and conditioning and being grateful. So you're releasing and you're building anew. Both of these as a combination will build this self-love within you, because think about it, when you're grateful, wow, I'm so grateful for my hands. I want you to try that. Something, a feature that you have. Just say you're grateful for it. Say, wow, I'm so grateful for my feet. I used to be so insecure of my feet, but now I'm saying, wow, I'm so grateful for my feet. My feet, there are people that don't even have feet. And that's not to undermine my past insecurity, but come on, let's be realistic here. There are people with way worse feet than me, and obviously comparison is a thief of joy, but if you're going to compare to someone that is better than you, you might as well start comparing to someone that's worse to even it out. You can't just be comparing to someone that's better, because what about the opposite end of the spectrum? So, and I know this is talking about boundaries, we're still continuing on that, but you have to be grateful for who you are, because you only get to be this person once. Even when you pass on and your soul is able to come back as a new human being, you're a different person. You only get to be this person once, and that creates so much more gratitude, because I only get to be this character once in my life. I look pretty dang good. Like, I can't believe, like, one day I have to die? Oh my gosh. One day I'm going to have gray hair. Who knows what's going to happen to me? I may not even have legs. So I'm spending all this time, and I reached a point where I was like, what a waste of time. What am I doing with my life? How bored am I to be spending so much time insecure of my feet? Let me just live my life. This is not a big deal. And you need to put yourself in environments where everyone is showing their feet. If you're insecure of your feet, go where everyone is showing their feet. Because I promise you, in real life, there's not just gonna be foot models. You're gonna see regular feet, and you're gonna notice, okay, my feet are regular too, whatever. Let me move on with my life. What am I doing wasting all this time? Like, okay, let me be grateful for my feet and move on. But you have to build up this certain level of self-love and self-respect in order to actually be able to maintain boundaries on an energetic level, not just verbally, because verbally it's your word against mine, whatever. We can fight, you can try to cross me. It creates a whole mess. But I went from just trying to have boundaries in a verbal way and having to fight people to maintain my boundaries, having to fight for my boundaries and defend myself for my boundaries and constantly being crossed, to maintaining this energetic boundary of naturally people are not crossing me. Yes, in my family, that's a different story. But because obviously I am more forgiving with my family, because you only have one set of parents. You only have these people, one of each of these people, you know what I mean? So, but I also distance myself and reinforce my boundaries, both verbally and energetically. When they cross them, I told them, hey, we aren't doing this. And obviously, if it got to a point where I genuinely felt like I was disrespected beyond what I wanted to handle, would I cut them off? Maybe not entirely. I'm not that harsh, but I would definitely distance myself to a point where you are not allowed to talk to me as much as you could because of how you've been treating me. Because I am not accepting this, and I'm going to completely cut off contact for a short period of time just to take that distance, because sometimes you need distance to reestablish a relationship dynamic. And so I actually did that. I went to the other side of the world for 2 months. I came back and I was able to reestablish certain boundaries, because now my family knows what it's like for me to not be around, for me to not talk to them. And now they see the value in just my existence and my presence and what it brings to them, what joy it brings to them. So now, and obviously part of this is because they're smart enough to know this. So some of you may have more difficult situations, but in that case, I would remain distant, because my boundaries are not negotiable. I'm not negotiating my boundaries. Obviously, I'm not going to be so harsh to my own family, because I love my family, and no matter what they've done, I want to have a happy relationship with them, a positive relationship with them. But if it got to a point where they're truly sabotaging my life and crossing my boundaries to an extreme level, I would cut off contact, at least for a short period of time. And if it had to be forever, so be it. Maybe in a couple years, I'd be like, hey, are you ready to respect me, to maintain this relationship? And if they're not, okay, bye. Just wanted to check up on you. You don't want to do that? That's fine. You don't want a relationship with me? That's fine. But I am not going to sacrifice myself to have a relationship with you. And so as I built up now I have such a deep sense of self-love, such a deep sense of gratitude for myself. I love myself. I have a deep sense of self-respect, and I can't tell you how many friends I've cut off. It wasn't immediately, but there were times when things built up to a certain point when, okay, I don't want to be friends with you anymore. Gradually, you know what I mean. There's a process where the strikes add up, and then finally you're like, okay, we're done here. This relationship is hurting me more than it's helping me, and so we can't be doing this anymore, because friendships are the one of the only relationships that you get to choose, really, other than your marriage. So I get to choose what kind of friendships I keep into my life, and I have one friend. One. At a certain point, I had 0, and I was totally fine with it. Why? Because when you have a level of self-love and self-respect, you're not seeking external validation. You're not seeking anything externally from you, outside of you. So I wasn't seeking anything from my friends. So I didn't need friends to like myself, to notice the beauty within me. I didn't need people complimenting me. I didn't need people doing this and that. So I was able to maintain having no friends. Yes, I still talk to people, because biologically we are social animals and we need to talk to people. So I still talk to people, but I wasn't close with anyone. And I was okay with it, because I'm not sacrificing my boundaries. I'm not sacrificing myself. When you reach a certain level of self-love, think about it. You love yourself so much. Think about it as if you love your friend. You love your friend so much. Would you let them suffer by staying in relationships that are harming them? No, you would yell at them and say, get the heck out. What the heck is wrong with you? You would call them out, right? And so why aren't you doing the same for yourself? You need to build up that level of self-love. You need to love yourself more than anyone. Because at the end of the day, when you're sitting on your deathbed, who's going to be there? Who is guaranteed to be there? You. Who is guaranteed to be there on your loneliest nights? You. So when you build up that self-love, you are building up this capacity to remain alone as long as you don't have anyone that is willing to respect your boundaries and that is willing to align with your values. So let's go back to the point. The way to maintain true energetic boundaries, and when I say energetic boundaries, I mean people can literally feel the energy radiating off of you. It goes beyond what you say. You don't even need to, yes, you make things clear to the other person, like, hey, these are my boundaries, but they can tell that you're not messing around. They can tell you're dead serious. Like, hey, look at my energy. Do I look like someone that hates themselves? No. Do I look like someone that doesn't respect themselves? No. And I have proven time and time again, my cutoff game is so strong. I will cut you off. I will cut you off. And I won't even be sorry about it. Like, maybe I'll feel a little bad, like, dang, whatever. Okay, next. Okay, you crossed the line. You crossed my boundaries. You disrespected my boundaries. We're done. We're done. We don't need to keep this going because it's clearly not a match. And I'm not willing to sacrifice myself to maintain this relationship. So bye. That's it. But if it's with family, obviously, different story, as I explained. But still, obviously, it would have to get more extreme for family. But I would still, if I reached that point, I would also create extreme distance between them. Because I don't negotiate with my boundaries. So stop negotiating with your boundaries. And if you're negotiating with your boundaries, ask yourself why. Usually the reason is because you don't have strong enough self-respect. You don't have strong enough self-love. So build that up by releasing these trauma, healing from the trauma. I talked about this in previous videos. All my videos are kind of like this big book of wisdom that kind of adds on to each other. So if you ever just click random videos and just watch them, because they all talk deeply about specific things that all tie together like this one big map. So notice where you're negotiating your boundaries, heal what you need to heal from that is keeping you from the self-love, from the strong and deep-rooted self-respect. Once you gain that deep-rooted self-respect and self-love, you will notice how you are standing on your boundaries stronger than ever. And sometimes it takes painful relationships, it takes heartbreak, it takes toxic friendships and family too, because some people, I personally, my family used to be toxic, but I don't know, I think there are some people that deal with truly very toxic family relationships, and sometimes you have to go through that to notice where you're sacrificing yourself and where you're putting yourself on the line to maintain a relationship that isn't even good for you. And so those relationships, and I went through that, so those relationships will teach you where the gap is between who you say you are and who you actually, what you stand for. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope this brought you clarity. Thank you so much. Leave a comment if you feel called to do so. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and I hope you have a nice day.